Welcome back to Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV, and today's focus is education, the new curriculum for basic education in particular. Our conversation comes a day before the observation of World Teachers' Day. This year's theme, Teaching in Freedom, Empowering Teachers. But teachers' unions argue that the new curriculum and other recent policies do the opposite, disempower teachers. Well, today's guests are Dr. Julius Juan, Director and CEO of the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, Wilson Sosion, the Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, and Mr. Indimuli Kahi, the National Chairman of the Kenya Secondary School Heads Association. And before the break, Dr. Juan, you were responding to Mr. Sosion's charge that this new curriculum we're having, even though it's good and benefits the country, has been improperly rolled out, and that it's coming too fast, leaving teachers and various others behind, and he feels the rush has to do with politics. What was the politics? You didn't quite explain that to us.
Yeah, of course, all policies in the world are politics from the government.
Okay.
And there should be no pressure.
But government is supposed to serve their people.
Government of the day.
What is
government
the
of the day. Yeah, government of the day. Those are politics from the government. There should be no pressure on KICD to fast-track the process. KICD should be left to operate independently and deliver the curriculum procedurally as required by the professional circle of review of the curriculum. That's what we're insisting on.
It just sounds as if they'll be damned if they do and damned if they don't, because we want a proper education system, and then on the one hand, and then on the other hand you argue, but you're doing it too fast. But of course
we are not strange in this country. When 844 was rolled out, it was politically pushed. Teachers were not prepared, and several subjects were introduced, and teachers were not trained for that. But it had to be done because it was an executive order. It was a political process pushed by the state. The same thing is what we are experiencing at the moment.
And
to deliver a new curriculum, especially competency-based, teacher preparation is key. That's what we're insisting on.
Okay, fine. Dr. Juan?
Thank you, Edward. I fully and totally agree with Mr. Sosion when it comes to the preparation of teachers. And the good thing is that the framework that we are putting in place in terms of preparing the teachers, in my view, is very robust. One, we are going to roll out the curriculum in stages. We are starting with the pre-primary and lower primary. So the first focus of the capacity buildings for teachers that will be taking place in November and December will focus purely on teachers at that level. And normally, and I'm sure SG will agree with me on this, the best way to train teachers when you want to introduce something new is to engage them towards the time when they're going to put in practice. It would be an anomaly, for example, to train teachers in August and they're going to roll out the new curriculum in January. They will have forgotten. That's why we decided to plan the training for November, December, then they have the Christmas break and they get into. And then we have done this in two phases. The initial phase is the introductory induction of the teachers into the new curriculum. Now the second phase is the continuous professional development of teachers that is normally undertaken by the TSC. Now what we have done in the TSC is go back to their modules that they use for the continuous professional development of teachers. And currently we are revising those modules to align them to the new curriculum, because the way that curriculum is being introduced should involve both the induction, the continuous professional development of the teachers, and then you have the curriculum support officers at the zonal level engaging them as they continue. The good thing with that second component is that it's motivating for the teachers, because as they get continuous professional development, they also benefit by the promotion that TSC provides. So it has to be continuous, and I want to affirm to you, you can never jump from A to Z when it comes to issues of training and curriculum rollout, and that is why we are doing it very progressively.
Maybe the Secretary General will tell us how exactly they would have wanted the teachers to be prepared towards the implementation of this curriculum.
Now, Dr. Juan has outlined strongly the positive aspect, but I think we should look at the gaps. Why can't we identify
and
the
that's
gaps?
What we're asking.
Yes, and that's exactly what I'm coming to. Yeah, what was the purpose of the pilot? The segment of the pilot stage of the curriculum why is it there? Because you begin from design to policy to development of syllabus and syllabus materials which we have not seen, and they must be tested. Of course, now they are being tested. The pilot was to test all this, to test the syllabus, to test the materials, and also to see the teacher preparedness. And before jumping to the rollout, we must receive a report and consume the report of the outcome of the pilot. And it's at that stage that will determine whether to roll out.
So that did not happen?
That has not happened. Why are we jumping to the rollout before we receive the report of the pilot? First, we contested the timing of the pilot. Because we needed good time to carry out the pilot, probably from January. But you see, right now, the piloting is not through. They are at the end point of the evaluation.
Sorry, we agreed we would go step by step, so we would understand where we are. So you've made a point that the design, syllabus, all of that was done, but you were not consulted at that point. They proceeded straight to rollout. Mr. Ndimuli?
Thank you very much. I think I've listened to the SG and the director. They are both talking the same thing, only that they seem not to agree on one point. I would like to mention here that the pilot rollout of 408 schools were identified. I think in the many discussions that the various stakeholders had at KIE, at KICD, where the unions, Cheche, KEPSHA were involved, the schools were identified. I think what the director said is from the pilot, the first term feedback, they have been trying to replenish the materials. I think this is the point
and
the SG has missed. They are replenishing. They are bringing in a new material. They are looking at the gaps that have been created, which the SG is alluding to, that we should identify gaps. And I think at the end of this term, when they finally finish the pilot program, we expect that KICD and the Ministry of Education, they will call back the various stakeholders, look at the feedback. And I'm sure at that point, Cheche, KEPSHA, and the unions,
KEPSHA being the primary ones, association,
the unions and other stakeholders, we will be able now to look at, okay, this is the feedback, this is what you are identifying. We as Cheche will have gotten our information from the secondary schools that are participating, and will be able to add flesh. So I agree with both of them, only that the SG is feeling that we have moved to the rollout, but I want to believe the rollout is not yet until we get the reports of the end of this term. Unless the director in this forum is saying that we are going straight into the rollout, which will be an anomaly.
Dr. John?
Thank you. I think maybe another thing that I need to mention is the nature of how you deal with the pilot. Now, again, my colleagues will agree with that in curriculum reform, unlike, for example, a pilot that you do for an academic research, you don't conduct the pilot, withdraw, and leave the learners to stay, go back to the old curriculum.
As you evaluate.
As you're evaluating, and then you go back. You are dealing with young people, and you're dealing with children. That is why once we started those schools as pilot schools, in August we were intensively reviewing the materials, and incidentally we printed new curriculum support materials for the third term. Now within the training, another thing that came out when we were engaging in the training and pilot, which was very exciting, which we are now embedding in the training, is the role of the head teachers in instructional leadership. When we trained the head teachers on the new curriculum, some of them opted even to come and join their teachers. And they were telling us that the most exciting thing is that now they will be taking leadership in something that they understand, which they indicated has never happened before. So there is always that continuous iterative process of how you engage the teacher through the curriculum support officers, and you don't leave that gap, because as I said, this is something new in Kenya and we are moving progressively through a process. Any gap that you leave, then you have to start all over again. And again in learning, I mean, they will agree with me, you cannot do that. Now, secondary schools will come much later, because as I said, one mistake we don't want to make is just to throw this thing at Kenyans at a go, because we will not know what to do with it. We have to take it very progressively.
Yeah. I think the argument, and Mr. Ndimuli has just made that point, is bringing everyone along, and you have made the point that you can't have the gap of learners, going toing and froing between old and new curricula. But the point that Mr. Sosion seems to be making is that there hasn't been enough consultation. And there hasn't been enough time.
This is a public discourse. Curriculum review is a public discourse. It is not a closed shop business of KICD and of course a few of us. In as much as I'm represented even in the steering committee, that does not mean all the teachers are informed. We have even recommended that there must be a powerful communication hub to all the teachers so that they move along with what is happening. Yes. And I think what we need to do from this stage, yes, what the director is proposing is noble. What you have been doing may be good, but how widely is it understood so that we implement it and get it right? And
so
I think where we are at this point, the outcomes of the piloting are key. It really is key. It is going to determine when we roll out and how we roll out. We are conducting our own independent evaluation on the 480 schools, because we will not watch this process pass without our input. We want to know what the teachers are feeling, what the head teachers are feeling. And
so let's ask you the question now, Dr. Johan, since we're,
and our provision of the provisional position of teachers now is that it's being hurried.
Mr. Sosion, thank you. You've made that point over the course of the last couple of minutes. So, Dr. Johan, rather, you have told us that you got the feedback. UNICEF helped you, or was it UNESCO? UNESCO. Yeah. So, can you share some of those findings with us? Some of the outcomes from the first term.
Incidentally, what is coming out of it is, for us, is very exciting. The teachers feel that the curriculum is very light.
Light?
Yes, it's not as heavy as what we have now, which for us is actually very exciting. Well, they think it is negative. For us, it is very positive, because that is what we intended to do, to make learning exciting for children at that level.
How is that so? Yet, apparently, from the reports we have, is there are more subjects that have been introduced as compared to what we have now?
No, that is not factual. In lower primary before, currently as it is, we have 11 subjects. We have reduced this to 9. I think what is coming up as more subjects is at the high school, where we have created pathways. We are creating opportunities for learners.
Let's go back. We have 844 at the moment.
Yes.
Break down the 2633 years for us, just so we don't leave our audience.
Yes, we have 2 years of pre-primary, which according to the Basic Education Act and our Constitution should form part of basic education. Then we have 6 years of primary schooling. We have 3 years of lower secondary and 3 years of senior secondary. If you notice, we are deliberately quiet on post-school learning, because that is where the rain started beating us with the current system.
That's post-secondary.
Post-secondary, because, when we talk of 844, we perceive the last 4 as the only component of post-school learning. Last year, for example, of the 577 students who sat KCSE examinations, 88,000 qualified to go to the university. Over 470 didn't qualify to go to the university, but they still go to other tertiary institutions that are 3 years, that are 2 years, and they still become useful members of the society. So when we put a lot of emphasis on the last 4, then psychologically we are already condemning a large mass of learners. So we are deliberately quiet on the last, on the last component or last level of education, because that will vary depending on what you are going for. So that is how we break the
So essentially what you've done is also, by using the term pathways, you're saying that not everybody, you know, is cut out to have a PhD.
Exactly.
Or to, you know, have 2 degrees or whatever. We're all skilled and gifted in different ways.
Exactly.
And so we're creating different avenues for people to realize that.
And making sure that we appreciate those who don't go into certain areas but opt for areas that they find exciting, instead of condemning them, that those who have failed can also go into. That statement must end, because these people are going into what they like and they will contribute to the economy of this
So
country.
that we don't have certain industries that are the preserves of the D students and others that are the preserve of the A students and others, that sort of
That is part of the drive for the curriculum reform, so that you don't have a lot of young people being wasted already psychologically by the society.
When you talk about assessment, there will be no test, no test. So when does A or B come in?
Actually,
there are no examinations at the end of the day.
Actually, this is one of the areas, again, which I think I agree with SG, that maybe we have not communicated effectively for people to understand that we are not saying there won't be any assessment. The only thing we are saying is that we should put as much emphasis on formative, that is assessment for learning, so that as the learner goes through the school, you can give them assessment to identify the areas that we need to improve on as a country.
So tests and not necessarily exams.
Yeah, it's assessment, and then we also have summative, like what we have now.
What does it mean?
There's a balance.
What does
Summative means what?
At the
Who will
end,
do the assessment? The teacher?
At the end of
at the end, like what we have now. At the end of every level of learning, you do assessments, you do examinations. But you see, currently, our emphasis is strictly on the 5 days, the 3 days, for example, that a child in standard 8 sits the examination. That is what matters. Anything else they have done before, if a child falls sick on that day, that child is said has failed. So this is, we want to put a balance. This happens in several countries, in West Africa, in Ghana, for example, in Nigeria. This is already implemented, even in South Africa itself. That
Here's what our viewers are saying. Tear gas encourages early childhood development. Having said that, get to your point, Bwana Sosion, I think this is being sarcastic about, you know,
the incident in Kisumu.
The incident in Kisumu, but also the fact that even schools don't seem to be safe environments for learners, which is one of the aspirations of quality education, that the learners must be in a safe environment. There is also, sorry, I missed it. Children are angels of God. We would need a mind change for all teachers and teaching staff. They all have a boss attitude that should not be questioned. Do as I say. And I think we have at least 3 or 4 former teachers on this panel. Mutegi, Mr. Sosion, a current teacher, Mr. Ndimuli,
and even
Dr. Juan. Charles, you're the only one, but you're in the board of governors of a school. So everyone involved in education. Not just for the sake of it, they only come first in a safe and conducive environment where tear gas is not thrown at them in schools and dorms. Ask the SG about teachers' annual increment question. We are lacking mechanisms to run objective curricula. How realistic can competency-based curriculum be? So that's a question for you, Dr. Juan.
And I think it's a very loaded question, considering the fact that we have almost literally failed in making sure that objective learning is
because how do we ensure, as Sonia asked, that it should encourage interrogation? Learning by rote to pass exams is a thing of the past. We need students who challenge, students who ask. So could we not, even within the competency-based framework, default into the rote learning mode?
Actually, one thing that we have done for this country that has never been done was the development of basic education curriculum framework. And this was quite participative. Now, how this has helped us is that we have laid a foundation from which, even if you want to modify anything, you cannot move out of. We have given ourselves the vision, the mission, nurturing every learner's talent and all that, and potential. And once you have this framework in place, then it means you have set a benchmarks that any other person who wants to engage with the education system does not go out. And this, therefore, should be able to save us from receding back as it happened, because I think even in the beginning of 844, this is what was envisaged. Unfortunately, because we didn't have a framework that could protect what had been done, we relapsed into our normal ways of doing things. So I think that is first thing. Another thing that I wanted to mention is the political component. Incidentally, as the person who is leading this process with other key stakeholders, I've never had any political pressure on this curriculum, and I must confess, twice I've had the cabinet secretary call me when we were with the team and ask me, do you think we are ready to roll out the new curriculum? And, you know, asking you so that we give him information. If we are not ready, we don't have to do it.
Manage expectations.
And my answer twice has been, if we don't do it now, it can never get more ready, because the word ready itself is a very relative concept. Even if we extended this curriculum for another 5 years, there are people who will say they are not ready. We have not reformed our curriculum since 2003. I mean, in 1985, we have not reviewed our curriculum since 2003. This is the
in fact, this has been since 2008. We've been planning this.
This is the 14th year we have not reviewed our curriculum, and the world is changing. Actually, when you go to some countries, they keep revising their curriculum annually depending on the components that they want to tune to fit the needs of the society. We have a new constitution that has put extreme pressure and demands on us, and as SG was saying, our democracy is evolving. But we have not appreciated that part of that evolution needs to embed some of the components in that constitution within the learning system, so that we acquire some of the virtues like diversity, values, ethics from early years, so that we appreciate that although we are different from our ethnic backgrounds, the only country we have is Kenya.
And the point would be that we would not see the sort of hate we're seeing and the political divisions we're seeing.
We have to start this from early years.
This is a very good discussion, by all means, especially to the intellectual parents who are watching. But I'm sure to many Kenyans, what they want to know is the new curriculum going to ensure that my child gets a job after school, or ensure that my child has a means of livelihood after school, or ensure that regardless, like I said at the beginning of this surname, they have an equal opportunity across the board, so that I don't have to remove my child from Chavakali, where Mr. Ndimuli comes from, and take them to a school in Central or Nairobi, where it stands a better chance of passing exams. That is what people out there want to hear. These other ones are very good, but I think that's what people want to hear.
Dr. Joan?
No, I think fundamentally a quality curriculum is good for any nation. You choose a good curriculum, you have it right. But I think here we've got to be very, very cautious.
No, what do you mean by a good curriculum?
A quality curriculum, of course, we are talking here about quantity. We are talking about 21st century skills. We are talking about skills that are relevant to the market. Fundamentally, that's what we are talking about. But from where we are coming from, the biggest challenge has been safeguarding quality.
Safeguarding quality.
Safeguarding quality.
So that would be the first concern you're bringing out.
Yes, yes. And we did not address these during the objective based. The demands of the curriculum of the competency-based are far much too high. What measures are we putting in place to safeguard quality if we failed in the previous? And those are the fundamental questions. And as you have seen, some people have moved to court. Because what is going on is alien, it's not understood. And that is why we are saying, let us be open with this process. We may be doing a good thing, but doing it the wrong way and destroying it prematurely.
Mr. Sossion, hold on. No, so that we're going step by step, because you've told us about teacher
one
training.
question that has been stated here, of course, you've asked the KICD curriculum.
I would like us to deal with the safeguarding of quality, and Mr. Ndimuli, you are coming in.
Yeah, thank you. I want to agree that we must safeguard quality. First, going by Charles' concerns, actually that is the concern everybody is having out there, that as we change the curriculum, are we able to ensure that our kids, people will get jobs? And I think when we are creating different pathways in this curriculum, in my view, we are trying to look at ways in which we can also introduce self-employment when you look at some of the pathways that are there. So at least when they are well trained and they can be self-employed, that would be good. You may have a very good quality curriculum which the SG is talking about, but these may end up being very poor unless we invest in quality teachers, because they are the drivers. At our level where I am, we are the implementers. We will implement the quality curriculum when we have the quality teachers. So the training of the teachers is key. The tools that the teacher is going to use is very key. So it is important for all of us, not only the government, to try and look at how do we ensure that we have the quality teachers. From the Teacher Service Commission Act in Section 35, they look at compliance with the teaching standards. And in the teaching standards, we are talking about teachers continuously improving on their quality. Here, we need to look at it in three ways. That as an individual teacher, you look at the competences that you are lacking, that you may need to be in service. So you can do it individually by maybe accessing training. This can also be school-based, where maybe teachers in a given school would come and say, we in the mathematics or the English department, we realize this is the gap we are having. Can the school assist us get this training? So it becomes incumbent upon the principal and the board of management to organize this. And it can also be institutional-based, where institutions like KICD, Ministry of Education itself, Teacher Service Commission, from the reports that they are getting from the teachers' appraisal and the performance contracting of principals, they must design training and maybe look at other partners they can partner with. So this will maintain the quality of the teaching standards and the quality of the teacher. So it involves all of us. But when it now comes to the tools, this is again where, as KICD is developing, must be thinking of the teaching and learning tools that are going to be used. One, are they going to be accessible? Two, are they going to be cheap enough to be purchased? Because when the cost is also too high, then you'll find that there are certain institutions that will not be able to acquire them, and therefore look at the government again to provide them. And this is, as we prepare, we need to be looking at this. Is the government going to provide the teaching and learning tools to our institutions?
Which is a good question that our viewers ask, but we'll come to that, finances, after the break. This is Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV. Please tell us what you think. Send us your questions and opinions on how you think the new curriculum should address Kenya's challenges. Our SMS number is 22422, and you can tweet us using the hashtag Cheche.